Hello, I'm Chief David Harkins of the Gloucester Township Police Department, and I'm honored to be speaking to you today. Today we honor the attacks of September 11, 2001. Today we honor and we remember the victims, the events, and especially the heroes of that day. On that day, 19 Al-Qaeda hijackers went on 4 airplanes and killed 2,977 victims in the September 11th attacks. These included 343 firefighters of the New York City Fire Department, 37 police officers of the New York and New Jersey Port Authority Police Department, 23 police officers of the New York City Police Department, and 8 emergency medical technicians. In addition, 125 military workers, both civilian and military, were killed at the Pentagon. 265 people died on the 4 hijacked commercial airplanes. These are more than just numbers to us. These are people who had families and whose families' lives were changed forever that day. This is a day that's forever etched into my memory. On that day, I was serving as a Gloucester Township police officer, and I was also a volunteer firefighter for the Choose Landing Fire Department. We were preparing to go to a counterterrorism drill that day in the city of Camden at the Patco train stations. The attacks took place, and the drill was canceled, and we were glued to the television sets as we watched the events unfold about us. My wife had called me. My son was only a few months old, and she had informed me that a plane had flown into the World Trade Center. So thinking it was a small civilian airplane, didn't think a lot of it. We turned it on to the horror of seeing people jumping for their lives, dying, and the tower burning on television right in front of us. It was clear to us that it was more than just a small airplane. We will never forget, as I watched the police officers, the firefighters, and other first responders rush into the buildings while others ran out of the buildings for their lives. We'll never forget the attack on the Pentagon and the response of the military personnel and the first responders who worked tirelessly to save lives. It angered me that day that our great country was under attack, and that my fellow countrymen and women were the victims of this attack on such a beautiful day. It was numbing and it was frustrating because as police officers, we wanted to do something. But I also recalled the patriotism and unity and the events that that fateful day brought to us all on the days that followed. I remember American flags hanging everywhere. People grieved together. People were kind to one another. We came together in a way that I had never experienced before, and that I hope that we can do someday again. Today we must commit to never forget that day. We must never forget the sacrifices made by so many for those they did not know. Never forget the innocent victims who lost their lives by just going to work or just getting on a plane. Never forget the good people what good people did for one another, how they helped each other, how they came together and looked out for one another. We can't forget the patriotism and unity and love of country that was generated on that day. The example set by our police officers, firefighters, and first responders made me reflect on our devotion to service. I am very confident in saying that the men and women that I work with here at the Gloucester Township Police Department would step up to the challenges that those first responders faced that day. We here are committed to service, and we recognize that we may sacrifice our lives for one another and for our community every day that we put our uniform on. We are committed to the service of others. I'd like to challenge each of you to learn about the heroes of September 11th. Simply do a Google search for heroes of 9/11. You'll see many, many stories, short video clips of real people who did real things to help their fellow countrymen. There are so many stories about Americans sacrificing so much for each other. We need to do more of that today. We need to put our differences aside. We need to come together. We need to do kind acts for one another, and we need to look out for one another. Let us look to them, the heroes of 9/11, to teach us how to do that today. Let us never forget their sacrifices. And let us never forget that we live in the greatest country in the world. Let us never forget the victims, the events, and the heroes of September 11th, 2001. We owe it to them to learn from them, to respect them, and to never forget. Thank you, and may God bless the United States of America.